Sir, should I call the police or an ambulance? I'd woken up in a novel. Not just any novel, but a trashy romance called The Billionaire's Replacement Girlfriend Collection. My executive assistant, Ben Carter, burst into the room. Mr. Sterling, a Ms. Chloe Martin is downstairs claiming she's pregnant with your child. Call the police. Suddenly, Chloe herself rushed in. Don't call them. Mr. Sterling didn't force me. It was consensual. The cops, who had just arrived, froze in the doorway. My expression shifted in a blink. Actually, it wasn't consensual. I'm pressing charges against her. The officer stammered, Mr. Sterling. Ben Carter ran in again. Sir, a Mr. Martin is downstairs claiming he's pregnant with your child. Call the police, I said, then paused. And get him a psych evaluation while you're at it. Ben Carter ran in a third time. Sir, the new housekeeper, Tanya, says you've been secretly in love with her since you were 10. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Is the talent pool for these romance tropes getting that shallow? Don't they even read the playbook anymore? Mr. Sterling, we finally found you. Ben Carter's eyes were red when he saw me, looking like he was about to burst into tears. I kept my expression cold, hiding my own confusion. Ben, what happened last night? Why am I here? You had too much to drink at the victory party, he said, his face a mask of misery. The security team was watching you. I just stepped out to grab a hangover cure from the pharmacy. And when I came back, you were gone. My eyes widened. I almost shot up out of the bed. Me? The CEO of Sterling Industries, worth billions? You lose me, and you don't immediately call the police? Are you afraid I'll get kidnapped? And what about the bodyguards? They couldn't keep an eye on one drunk guy? What do I pay them for? Just as I finished, the elevator dinged, and 6 huge men in suits rushed in, dropping to one knee. Sir, we found you. The one in the lead glared at my assistant. Ben, weren't you with the boss all night? Why didn't you say something sooner? You had us searching all over the city. Ben stared back, baffled. We were searching together. When was I supposedly with him? I scoffed internally. A bunch of useless clowns. Once I sorted this mess out, they were all fired. Did anyone call the police? I asked, forcing my voice to remain steady. The bodyguards erupted. Sir, how could we call the police? That would show a lack of faith in us. Yeah, besides, we found you, didn't we? And you're a billionaire CEO. When you go missing, you're supposed to stumble into your one true love, not a police station. Exactly. Sir, where's the lady? Is she just shy, hiding somewhere? Found me? The lady? The corner of my mouth twitched as I prepared to unleash hell. Ben suddenly leaned in close, whispering, Sir, we did call them last night. We just kept it quiet to avoid a panic and protect the stock price. Okay, at least my assistant had a brain. He could stay. But could someone please tell me why, 3 months ago, I woke up inside this ridiculous novel, The Billionaire's Replacement Girlfriend Collection, as the main character? If my romantic replacements came in a collection, just how much of a train wreck was the original guy? Just then, 2 police officers walked in. Mr. Sterling, we'll need you, your assistant, and your security detail to come down to the station and give a statement. At the station, I cut straight to the chase. Detective, I suspect corporate espionage. Last night, I closed a multi-billion-dollar deal that brought a massive investment into the state. Someone's jealous. They arranged for my disappearance to sabotage the partnership and tank our stock. If they'd succeeded, thousands of my employees could have lost their jobs. It's a serious threat to public stability. The detective's expression immediately turned grave. As we were giving our statements, a young officer hurried in. Captain Miller, we got a lead. A cab driver called in last night. He said a woman helped a completely intoxicated man into his cab. The man was totally unconscious. The driver's dash cam caught a blurry image. Even though the security cameras at both the event venue and the hotel were mysteriously damaged, the police used the cabbie's tip to quickly identify the woman, Chloe Martin. As the primary victim and a major taxpayer, I was allowed to watch the interrogation from the observation room. Chloe, the detective asked, why did you take Mr. Sterling from the party last night? Chloe's eyes welled up. I saw him passed out on a couch. He wouldn't wake up. I was worried someone was trying to hurt him, so I wanted to take him somewhere safe. Then why didn't you call 911? My phone was dead. But the cab driver said you paid the fare using Apple Pay. Her face went pale. The signal was bad at first. Why didn't you ask anyone around you for help? The driver said he asked if you needed assistance. And why did you take him to a hotel 2 miles away? Chloe's face suddenly flushed and she stammered, because that's the hotel where we first met. The detective pressed, when did you first meet? She clutched her stomach and let out a piercing shriek. My stomach hurts. The baby. Mr. Sterling and I's baby. I'm losing the baby. I stared at the monitor, dumbfounded. A baby? According to the memories of this body, I'd never laid eyes on this woman before in my life. A short while later, I was brought in to confront her. Ms. Martin, I said, my voice ice cold. I don't seem to recall us ever having an encounter. Chloe's blush deepened, her voice barely a whisper. 3 months ago, you were drunk at the hotel, and I went into the wrong room. I almost laughed. I'm a billionaire CEO. I stay in the presidential suite with a full security detail. How exactly did you get past hotel security, my bodyguards, and my executive assistant? Furthermore, I remember that night clearly. I was blackout drunk, and Ben was so worried I'd choke on my own vomit that he stayed in my room until dawn. I saw you in the lobby, she insisted. I was worried the others wouldn't take good care of you, so I snuck in. Ben was so tired he'd fallen asleep on the sofa. You grabbed my hand. You called me Chloe. You kissed me, and we. So you're saying I forced myself on you while my assistant was sleeping so soundly in the same suite that he didn't hear you call for help? Then why didn't you go to the police? As far as I recall, you were gone when I woke up. I couldn't have threatened you. One of the officers chimed in, Ms. Martin, if someone forces you into a sexual act, you must report it. We take all accusations seriously. He shot a pointed look in my direction. No, Mr. Sterling didn't force me. I was willing. The officer just stared. I wasn't willing, I stated flatly. I want to press charges against her. The officer sighed. Mr. Sterling. What? A man can't be sexually assaulted by a woman. My gaze sharpened, flicking down to her stomach. Besides, medically speaking, it's virtually impossible for a man who is blackout drunk to become physically aroused. If you claim we had relations, that suggests you must have drugged me. Chloe panicked. And no, I didn't. No. I pulled out my phone and hit the record button. First you claim you're pregnant. Now you're not. Any sexual act that violates a person's consent constitutes rape, regardless of gender. You trespassed in my room, engaged in sexual activity with me while I was unconscious, and fabricated evidence of a child. That is a felony. She was trembling, tears streaming down her face. I didn't. I just saw you in an elevator once and fell in love with you. I only wanted to take care of you. Take care of me? I sneered. By sneaking into my room and lying about being pregnant? And this pregnancy is just your word against mine. You say you're carrying my child, but is it really mine? I demand we go to the hospital for a test. Right now. The detective nodded. That's fine, Mr. Sterling. We'll arrange for evidence collection. I want to go now. I own a stake in Sterling Medical Center. It's the best private hospital in the state. Celebrities, billionaires, they all go there. We can get the results in 10 minutes. I'm afraid that won't be possible, sir. Evidence must be collected at a certified public hospital. Looks like the police, at least, weren't affected by this novel's terrible writing. We went to the largest public hospital in the city. 3 hours later, the results were in. A detective walked in holding a file. Mr. Sterling, the hospital report is back. Ms. Martin is not pregnant. Faced with undeniable proof, Chloe's face turned the color of ash. The police immediately opened a formal investigation. As they led her away, she was still sobbing. I didn't do it. I watched her go, feeling nothing. So what if I was in some trashy novel? Anyone who crossed me, even if she was supposed to be one of the main love interests, would face the full force of the law. It occurred to me then that the problem wasn't the original Jet Sterling's bad behavior, but the sheer number of psychos this world was determined to throw at me. Just then, a translucent line of text scrolled across my vision. Live feed comment. What's wrong with this CEO? Doesn't he see that Chloe looks just like his one true love? Live feed comment. Yeah, he's supposed to sweep her off her feet, and then she's supposed to get pregnant for real and run away. The comments reminded me of a news story I'd read once. A housekeeper stole a CEO's sperm, secretly inseminated herself, and then sued for millions in child support. Not on my watch. No con artist was ever getting a single dime from me. In the car on the way back to the office, I massaged my temples. Ben, I said, contact several reputable security firms with clean backgrounds. This entire team needs to be replaced. I'll interview the candidates myself. Understood, sir. I'll start by screening the top-rated firms in the city, numbers 2 through 10. Why not number 1? I asked, glancing at him. Your current team. They're from the number 1 firm. I let out a short, sharp laugh. This is their standard of excellence. The industry's in trouble. After a moment, I added, don't worry about name recognition. Look for smaller, local outfits. Companies with boring names. I want reliability, discretion, and people who follow the rules. Right away, sir. Ben's efficiency was his greatest asset. My phone buzzed. The screen read Fordham, my number 1 rival in this story. I answered, and a roar blasted through the speaker. Jet Sterling, what the hell is wrong with you? Chloe was trying to help you last night, and you had her arrested? I held the phone away from my ear until he was done screaming. Your intel is impressive, Fordham, I said calmly. You even knew I was being helped last night. Was she working for you? Did you send her to pull something while I was drunk, only for your little operative to go rogue? He wasn't listening. She's the kindest, most innocent girl. How could you do that to her? Sterling, you just watch your back. He slammed the phone down. I called back. A cold, automated voice informed me the user's phone was off. Ben, I said, putting my phone down. As of today, we begin phasing out all business dealings with Fordham Corp. Anyone that irrational is probably running his company into the ground anyway. Ben looked uncomfortable. Sir, we're direct competitors with Fordham. We don't actually have any business dealings with them. I had let my anger get the better of me. I paused. Fine. Start tracking them. Any promising ventures or projects they're looking at. I want you to find a way to intercept them. Yes, sir. Ben made a note. I closed my eyes, trying to relax, but my own name felt like an irritation. Jet Sterling? Who names their kid Jet? It sounded like my parents were in a gang war. A search of my new memories revealed that while my parents' marriage was a corporate merger, they'd maintained a cordial public front. They both had affairs, but were meticulous about preventing illegitimate children to keep the family stock from being diluted. My name, it turned out, wasn't even their choice. My grandfathers had written a bunch of auspicious words on slips of paper for me to draw from a bowl as a baby. Somehow, the name Jet got mixed in, I picked it, and neither side of the family made me redraw. At this point, I could only chalk it up to the power of the plot. A little while later, Ben took a call. Sir, he reported quietly, Chloe Martin made bail. However, the police have filed a restraining order on your behalf. She can't come within 1,000 yards of you. Just then, a flat, electronic voice sounded in my head. Plot deviation, 15%. Who's there? I asked in my mind, but there was no reply. A few more comments scrolled across my vision. Live feed comment. How come so? I didn't notice that Chloe looks just like his one that got away. Why did he have her arrested? Live feed comment. She has a restraining order now. How was a replacement girlfriend plot supposed to work? Live feed comment. What happened to her getting pregnant and running away? This story is falling apart. Live feed comment. The rival needs to step up. Save Chloe and get the baby plotline back on track. Live feed comment. But Chloe isn't pregnant. Live feed comment. Doesn't matter. Our Chloe can totally have a mystical conception. Live feed comment. What? Live feed comment. Replacement collection -1. I sneered internally. Did these people really think that in the world of a multi-billionaire, just anyone could get close enough to pull a stunt like that? Did they think my security and legal teams were just for show? Okay, maybe the old security team was just for show. Or maybe every private investigator in the world has disappeared because finding a broke woman on the run with a baby should be impossible. I personally interviewed candidates from over a dozen security firms, posing a specific scenario. What do you do if I'm drunk? What if an unknown woman tries to approach me or even lead me away? 90% of them said something like, a woman isn't much of a threat. We'd let her help you out. It seemed the plot's brain-dumbing effect extended to the entire security industry. Ultimately, I selected 18 men from 3 different firms, organized into 3 rotating shifts. I gave them one non-negotiable rule: no unauthorized personnel, especially young women. were to come anywhere near me. The new bodyguards didn't understand my focus on young women until Ben discreetly let it slip that a woman had recently attempted to fabricate a scandal to steal corporate secrets and blackmail me for company stock. Their expressions immediately hardened. They swore to uphold their professional duties. Even with the new security, I wasn't taking any chances. I had Ben hire a couple of new staffers who were good at networking and could run social interference at events with heavy drinking. Ben was brilliant, but he had a low tolerance for alcohol. The HR department moved fast, and the generous salary attracted a flood of applicants. Within a week, 2 new hires were on board, a man and a woman. They proved their worth at a business gala shortly after. Even with them taking the lead, I still had a few glasses of champagne and was feeling a light buzz on the ride home. The bodyguards and Ben escorted me all the way into my villa. My housekeeper, Mrs. Gable, had a hangover cure broth waiting, enough for me and the 2 new staffers. It was late, so she offered them guest rooms for the night. Before turning in, a vague premonition made me give the on-duty guards a specific order. Under no circumstances was anyone to enter my bedroom tonight. Sure enough, in the middle of the night, the male assistant, Chris Martin, crept up to my bedroom door, claiming he was worried the boss had too much to drink and wanted to see if he needed anything. He was, of course, stopped by my bodyguards. When I heard about it the next morning, I told him directly, "Your trial period is over. Go to accounting, get your final paycheck. You're done here." He was stunned. He shoved past a bodyguard and got right in my face. "Sir, what did I do wrong? Why are you firing me?" My expression didn't change. A trial period is a two-way street. I've determined you're not a good fit. This is a legal and justified termination. You'll be paid every cent you're owed. He refused to back down. "You have to give me a reason. What did I do wrong?" I stared at him. "Why don't you explain why you tried to enter my private bedroom last night? Is that part of your job description? You were drunk yesterday. I was just worried." He sputtered. "I had a few glasses of champagne. You 2 were the ones drinking heavily on my behalf. If anyone needed looking after, it certainly wouldn't be the job of a half-drunk probationary employee to overstep his bounds." I gave a cold smirk. "You're lucky you're a man. Otherwise, I'd suspect you were trying to pull a get pregnant and run scheme." He kept at it. "I don't accept this. I did nothing wrong, and I'm not leaving." Seeing him dig in his heels, refusing to leave the premises, a thought struck me. Was he a corporate spy? I immediately told Ben to call the police. The moment he heard the word police, his demeanor changed completely. He burst into tears. "How could I be a spy? I just admire you, sir. I don't want to leave you." Then he dropped the bombshell. "And I'm pregnant with your child." Everyone in the room, me, Ben, the bodyguards, froze. I was unaware I had the ability to impregnate men. I said slowly, "Wait, men can't get pregnant. Mr. Sterling, 3 months ago, at the Ritz-Carlton." I cut him off. "Let me guess. I was drunk, you secretly took care of me, and something happened?" "No, sir," he said frantically. "You went for a swim, and after you left, I went for a swim in the same pool, and that's how I got pregnant." "Are you a fish? You think you could be fertilized externally?" "Mr. Sterling, how did you know I have clownfish? Clownfish are hermaphrodites. Merman blood in me." Ben, the bodyguards, and even Mrs. Gable all turned to stare at me, their expressions a mixture of horror and confusion. I almost laughed out loud. Even if you could, I don't make a habit of leaving my genetic material floating around in public pools. I turned to Ben. "Call the psychiatric hospital, too." The police arrived quickly. It was the same detective. Hearing Chris's story, he clapped me on the shoulder sympathetically. "Mr. Sterling, what is it about you? Why does everyone keep claiming to be pregnant with your child?" "It's absolutely impossible for anyone to be pregnant with my child," I said, my voice firm. "I'm a virgin." The entire room went silent. Medics from the psychiatric hospital arrived. Their initial diagnosis was that Chris was suffering from severe delusions. The police took him into custody, promising to notify his family. I insisted they file another restraining order. I was afraid his delusions might turn violent. The live feed comments appeared right on cue. Live feed comment. "The CEO didn't notice this one looks like his old flame either." Live feed comment. "Replacement -1, pregnancy plot -1. I'm about to drop this story." Live feed comment. "This CEO is not following the script." I frowned. Were these comments a real-time review of my life? The familiar electronic voice returned. Plot deviation, 30%. I had just dealt with that fiasco when my phone rang again. Another rival CEO, Lucas. I answered, and the requisite shouting began. Jet, are you even human? How could you do that to Chris? He loves you so much. I hung up before he could finish. He called back. I sent him straight to my block list. Rubbing my aching forehead, I told Ben Lucas Enterprises, terminate all contact, effective immediately. Ben hesitated. Sir, Lucas Enterprises is also one of our biggest competitors. We don't have any contact to terminate. Perfect, I sneered. Start tracking them, too. Any business they're pursuing, any projects they want, I want you to take them. Yes, sir. Ben noted it down efficiently. I raised an eyebrow, a strange sense of amusement bubbling up. Sterling Industries certainly has a lot of enemies. I guess you don't get to be the richest man in the Midwest without making a few. I gave a strict order to Ben and Mrs. Gable. From now on, no one is to be hired here whose name sounds anything like Chloe or Chris. With the drama temporarily quieted, I poured all my energy into expanding the business. While Fordham and Lucas were busy with their respective delusions, I quietly swooped in and captured a massive amount of market share, netting an extra $1 billion in profits. My other new hire, a female assistant named Grace Jensen, proved to be incredibly competent, skillfully navigating me through countless boozy networking events. After a particularly grueling quarter, I announced that all employees who had worked overtime would receive their standard overtime pay plus an entire extra month's salary as a bonus. The corner of Ben's mouth twitched into a grin so wide you couldn't have suppressed it with a machine gun. I gave him a weary look. Go ahead and laugh, Ben. Don't hurt yourself holding it in. Haha, sir. Ben finally let out. I was just thinking of something that makes me very happy. I raised an eyebrow. You mean the extra 10 grand bonus you'll be getting this month? Ha ha. You know me so well, sir. His laughter finally broke free, echoing in the office. Back at the villa, I noticed a new face among the staff, a middle-aged woman in her 40s. Who's this? I asked Mrs. Gable casually. Sir, she explained, our previous maid, Maria, had a family emergency and had to resign. This is the new hire, Tanya. Tanya stepped forward, a smile plastered on her face, but her eyes held a strange, unnerving intensity. Hello, sir. My name is Tanya. It's a pleasure to work for you. That look sent a chill down my spine. My first instinct was to tell Mrs. Gable to fire her on the spot. I held back, but later pulled Mrs. Gable aside. Keep an eye on her. Don't let Tanya near my study or my bedroom. A few days later, another networking dinner, another slight buzz from the wine. On the way home, Ben and the security team were on high alert, the previous incidents having made them paranoid. At 2 a.m, a slender figure crept towards my bedroom door. The instant she got close, my bodyguards had her pinned against the wall. I came out at the sound of the commotion and gave Ben a look. He expertly pulled out his phone and dialed 911. We were getting good at this. Ben leaned in and whispered, Sir, should I call the psych hospital as well? I nodded. Might as well. Save us a step. The person they caught was a teenage girl, maybe 14 or 15. Let me go, she yelled, struggling. I'm the maid here. I was just coming to clean. I frowned. We hired a child. The household staff are all required to be over 30, didn't you know? Just then, Mrs. Gable rushed over. Her face paled when she saw the girl. Stacy, what are you doing here? Tanya was summoned next. When she saw the scene, her legs went weak. Sir, the landlord of my apartment is suddenly selling the place. Her father and I are divorced. Stacy had nowhere else to go. I let her stay in my staff room temporarily. It's just me in there. She wasn't bothering anyone. Not bothering anyone? Before I could speak, Mrs. Gable exploded. This isn't about being a bother. You brought an unauthorized person into the villa. That's trespassing. Tanya was on the verge of tears. No, sir. Please, just give me a few days. I'll find a new place and we'll move out. You won't have to wait that long, I said coldly. You can both move into a free room tonight. Stacy blinked, and then her face lit up with a look of pure delight. A free room? Are you giving me a condo? Are you trying to ask me out? Her logic was so baffling I almost laughed. I'm trying to stay on the cover of Forbes, not the National Enquirer. The sound of police sirens grew closer. When the door opened, It was Detective Miller and his team. Again, I clear my throat awkwardly. Detective, sorry to trouble you again. Miller waved a hand, but before he could speak, Tanya threw herself at me, sobbing. Master Jet, don't you remember me? I flinched. You're not going to tell me you're pregnant with my child, are you? My interruption threw her off, but she quickly recovered. No, Master Jet. It's me, Tanya. I used to take care of you before you were 8. Mrs. Gable leaned in, studying her face. Her brow furrowed. Wait, are you Tanya Miller? When the woman froze, Mrs. Gable continued. You used to be a cleaner at the old family estate. You quit because you were getting married. Why did you change your name? And you look so different. Tanya's eyes darted away for a second before she regained her composure, pointing a finger at me. Master Jet, stop pretending. You had a crush on me back then, didn't you? Why else would you be so obsessed with Sophia Vance from Vance Global? The way her eyes are set. It's just like mine when I was young. She grabbed her daughter, Stacy, and pushed her forward. Look, this is my daughter. She's the spitting image of me at her age. If you miss me, you don't have to go through Sophia anymore. You could just look at Stacy. Stacy immediately picked up the thread, a look of naive triumph on her face. I don't mind being a stand-in. I know you're a lot older than me, but you're a billionaire CEO. I'd totally date you. I was speechless. This was clearly a middle schooler who had read one too many billionaire romance novels. Her brain was completely broken. I couldn't be bothered arguing with them. I turned to the detective. Miller, please, just take them away. At that, Tanya collapsed on the floor, wailing and slapping her thighs. Master Jet, please, have mercy on us. We're broke. We'll be homeless if you throw us out. Broke. Mrs. Gable stepped forward, her voice cutting. You've worked here for 2 months at $30,000 a month. That's 60 grand in salary. That's more than enough to rent an apartment and live comfortably for months. How are you possibly broke? Hearing that, a young officer next to Miller muttered to his partner, 30 grand a month? Do you think his house is still hiring? I quit for that. What did you say? Miller shot him a glare, and the officer immediately shut his mouth and stood at attention. The live feed started up again. Live feed comment. So the others weren't the real deal? Tanya is the secret first love? Live feed comment. No way. I refuse to accept this plot twist. Live feed comment. Get real. A billionaire CEO wouldn't fall for a woman his mother's age. Live feed comment. You never know. Maybe he has mommy issues. I stared at the comments, rolling my eyes internally. Even if I had mommy issues, it would be with Mrs. Gable, not her. I immediately recoiled from the thought. Ugh, no. I did not have mommy issues. The electronic voice chimed in. Plot deviation, 45%. After dealing with Tanya and Stacy, I waited for the next business opportunity to fall into my lap. But my phone remained silent. The next day, I asked Ben, bleary-eyed, are there any major rivals left for the company to deal with? Ben, check his files. No, sir. Not at the moment. I sighed, leaning back in my office chair. Looks like the days of easy money are over. In the weeks that followed, the stream of weirdos never stopped. A 20-year-old cleaning lady tried to force her way into my office and was promptly carried out by the 6 bodyguards stationed outside my door. Plot deviation, 60%. A 30-year-old business partner tried to slip something into my drink during a meeting. I played along and used the opportunity to leverage a massive concession out of her company. Plot deviation, 75%. On my way home, a handsome young man threw himself in front of my car, then claimed I had to take him home and nurse him back to health. Ben called the police. Plot deviation, 90%. Detective Miller was now so used to our calls he didn't even bother with a greeting. Ben and the bodyguards had developed a conditioned reflex, instantly intercepting anyone who looked at me funny or tried to get too close. The live feed was buzzing again. Live feed comment. OMG, why do all these people have a slight resemblance to the one that got away? Live feed comment. Is the CEO just surrounded by a collection of replacements? Live feed comment. For the love of God, can we please be done with the replacement girlfriend trope? At the end of another long day, I leaned back in my chair. Then I asked my assistant, who was rubbing his temples, do you think all these characters we've been dealing with look alike? Ben, lost in thought about work, took a second to process the question. His expression changed to one of alarm. Sir, you aren't Interested in any of them, are you? Heavens, he thought, if the boss is actually into these lunatics, I'd rather he went back to pining for Ms. Vance. I'd rather pick him up from a bar at 3 a.m. Listen to him drunkenly call her name, even drive him to the airport just to watch her plane take off from a distance. Anything but this. Why are these my only two options? Making money is hard, but this is ridiculous. Can't he just stay focused on work? We've gotten 3 bonuses in the last 6 months. It's a million times better than when he used to dock our pay for no reason. Seeing the agony on his face, I scowled. Of course not. I was just asking you, objectively, if you thought they looked similar. Ben breathed a sigh of relief. No, sir. Not really. The only thing they have in common is that they're all conventionally attractive. My thoughts exactly, I said, nodding. Seeing that I was done with the topic, Ben immediately dove back into his work. I watched him go, muttering to myself, is this whole thing just a convoluted plot to make me avoid all good-looking people? Because that's not going to happen. Competence is key, but aesthetics matter too. One afternoon, my phone rang. It was my grandfather's calling on a conference line. Both had been retired for years, traveling the world, and rarely called. Kiddo. The familiar voices were cheerful. Your grandpa and I are back in town. We're at the estate. Come by after work and have dinner with us. When I arrived at the Grand family estate, I was greeted with a chorus of kiddo. I smiled tiredly. Grandpa, Gramps, I'm 25. Can we please stop with the kiddo? Just call me by my name. The 2 old men looked at each other, opened their mouths, but couldn't bring themselves to say the name Jet. Seeing their hesitation, I seized the opportunity. You know, you 2 also think Jet is a bit harsh for the modern business world, don't you? What if I change my name? Yes, absolutely, they said in unison. My maternal grandfather grumbled. I still don't know what jerk put that slip of paper in the bowl. We tried to change it back then, but you threw a fit. This time, no lottery. We'll hire a proper consultant to find a good one. Soon, the consultant had selected a new name, Julian Sterling. It projected an image of leadership, of decisive, thunderous action, of being an unstoppable force in the industry. I went to the county clerk's office to file the paperwork and, by sheer coincidence, ran into Detective Miller. When he heard I was changing my name, his eyes went wide. Mr. Sterling, I consulted an expert, I said calmly. Turns out my old name has been bringing me some bad luck lately. Time for a change. Miller opened his mouth, clearly wanting to lecture me about superstition, but then he seemed to remember the parade of lunatics I'd dealt with over the past year. He closed his mouth, sighed, and handed me the forms. I announced the name change on the company's official website. It caused a stir, but I shut down the speculation by simply stating it was for good fortune. And strangely enough, it worked. The live feed went silent. The weirdos stopped appearing, but the plot deviation was still stuck at 90%. That last 10% refused to budge. I attended a charity auction. I was the highest bidder of the evening, acquiring several pieces from my collection. The second highest bidder was a young woman in a sharp, white power suit. I recognized her instantly, Sophia Vance. In the original novel, she was the protagonist's one that got away. Ben noticed my gaze. Sir, he whispered, would you like to go say hello? Ms. Vance has been expanding her company's international presence for the last year. She only recently returned to the States. Just got back. I thought to myself, the original character's great love was gone for 1 year, and he managed to find 6 replacements? The sheer inefficiency was staggering. Still, we would be crossing paths in the business world. An introduction was necessary. I walked over. Ms. Vance, a pleasure. Welcome back. I hear you've had a successful year abroad. Vance Global's overseas market share grew by 5%, correct? Sophia Vance looked at me, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. She shook my hand. Mr. Sterling, you flatter me. It's nothing compared to your success. I hear Sterling Industries grew its domestic market share by at least 10% this past year. After a few more polite business pleasantries, we went our separate ways. But her strange look bothered me. Was she another one of them? Ben, I asked as we were leaving, why did she look at me like that? Ben hesitated. Well, sir, I believe it's because it was the first time you've ever spoken a full sentence to her without stuttering. It hit me. The original Jet Sterling had been so nervous around his crush he could barely speak. The pining was painfully obvious, yet she'd probably never even noticed. Over time, through our business dealings, Sophia and I began seeing more of each other. By the time I turned 30, it was clear that in terms of family background, business acumen, and personal compatibility, we were a perfect match. With the pressures of family legacy and corporate alliances to consider, our relationship evolved naturally. We got engaged. On our wedding day, my parents were there, holding both our hands. "Take care of each other," they said. "Be patient, be kind." As Sophia and I exchanged rings in front of our friends and family, a line of text appeared in my vision. "Plot deviation, 100%. A mechanical voice followed. "Would you like to return to your original world?" I paused. In these past few years, I had nearly doubled the size of Sterling Industries, pushing it into the top 10 corporations nationwide. I wasn't about to leave that behind. "What happens if I don't go back?" I asked. "If you choose to remain, you will continue to live your life normally in this world." I thought. When the book ended, this world would just disappear, I murmured. "Not at all," the voice said, its tone softening. "This reality has stabilized into its own independent universe. It is no longer bound by readers or the original plot. It will continue to evolve according to its own logic." "Then I'm staying," I said without hesitation. This world had family. It had a partner who stood by my side. It had loyal, competent people who depended on me. And most importantly, it had a career and a fortune that were truly mine. In my old life, I was a middle manager with a 0.5% stake in some faceless corporation. Here, I held 45% of Sterling Industries. I was the master of my own destiny. Why would I ever want to leave a life like this?